It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com from the Blessing in Disguise release that is Metal Church with
the Classic Metal Show.
There you go. And that of course, is the Badlands. And Chris, calling from the Badlands, is our good friend, the Metal Cowboy himself, the Speed Demon himself, Ron Keel. What's going on, Ron?
Good evening, Neely. Good evening, Chris. It's great to be back on the Classic Metal Show again. Thanks for having me tonight.
Well, I didn't play a Keel song to bring you in, Ron. I just thought it would be more appropriate if I played some Metal Church Badlands. You don't mind, do you?
Not at all. That Metal Church Badlands is a great cut and a perfect introduction to my segment this evening.
There you go. See, Ron always a very positive guy. He could have said, "God damn it, you know what? I got a record, Metal Cowboy. Why didn't you play a cut off of that? Instead, you played something else."
He should have. He should have said, "Put me back on hold and play my music."
You guys are the experts. You set the bar, man. We're all just trying to keep up and follow along.
Well, Ron, you're out there in the Badlands now. I guess you're all settled in. You made the move, last year, and the Badlands Pawn is open, and you got your house band, in action, and you're putting on shows already. So let's talk about your venture out there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not settled in yet. I still, it's been a crazy year. I've been here over a year now in the Midwest, based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, as part of the Badlands Entertainment Group and leader of the Badlands House Band. And I'm not settled in. It's just been crazy. I'm in high gear 24/7, building this thing, getting it off the ground, getting it on the road, getting the band in the studio, and creating a product that we can all be proud of and talk about tonight on the Classic Metal Show. So it has been one hell of a ride for over a year now, building this thing, and we're really excited about finally establishing the act as a legitimate recording act. Now with the release of our first single, Ghost Riders in the Sky, which came out last week, produced by Henry Paul of the Outlaws. Of course, it's a cover of the classic Outlaws track, Ghost Riders, and to have an original member of the Outlaws, Henry Paul, who is a longtime friend of mine, to have him come to Sioux Falls and produce our version of the track was a dream come true. And I trust you guys have seen the video, right? You checked out the music video. Tell me yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Chris.
Good answer. If anybody wants to know what I'm doing or what Ron Keel is up to or what this project is all about, this video clip says it all. It is a celebration of the last 7 months since the band did our first show, and it is really a true representation of what we're doing, of what we're all about. And, I appreciate just the opportunity to be on the Classic Metal Show and talk about it, because you guys are hardcore, you guys are metal, and everybody knows that Ron Keel has a metal heart. And, what is metal? Well, there are different kinds of metal, and these days it's divided into 100 or more subcategories, chrome and steel and silver, and, we're all about the gold, man. Guns, gold, and rock and roll. So there are certainly metal elements to everything that I do. But I'm able to paint that picture with so many different colors with this project, and kind of really go from one extreme to the other with that same inspiration that inspired Metal Cowboy, that same musical direction on my last solo album, and going back to my days with Iron Horse, which was a hard rock and southern country metal band, and I've been able to take that to the next level with the Badlands House Band.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about what I'm interested in. Not that I'm not interested in the whole thing, but I'm interested in your whole radio show and how that all works out, and where people hear that. I know it's online, but is this a terrestrial thing, Ron?
It is, and I appreciate you asking about that, to address that and tie it in with our history together. The Classic Metal Show was the first online radio show that I ever appeared on. I don't think I knew that online radio existed, Neely, before you first had me on the show. Had to be 12 years ago when you guys were first getting started, and it lit a fire in me. Eventually, I created my own syndicated show, Streets of Rock and Roll, which you guys were extremely supportive of, and taught me a lot of the chops, how to host a show, how to entertain people on the radio. and how to get that thing out there and get it syndicated. Chris Aiken was a huge part of my success, not only coaching me and telling me, what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, but also helping to get affiliates. And Chris actually hosted my syndicated show a number of times in my absence when I was on the Monsters of Rock cruise or when I was touring Europe and I was unavailable to host my show. Of course, Chris Aiken was my my stunt double, so to speak. So you guys have had a huge part in that radio career. I want to share that success with you because now I'm hosting a daily show on terrestrial radio on 94.5 KBAD throughout the Midwest and online, streaming online 24/7 at kbad945.com. And this is the only station in the region that has live DJs 24/7. No pre-recorded shows, no pre-programmed crap. We are able to play. We'll play some obscure stuff, some of our favorites from the 80s heyday. We'll play Dirty Looks, and we'll play Contraband, and we'll play, of course, all your favorites and all the hits from AC/DC and Def Leppard and Scorpions and Priest. But we can go deep, man. We don't have to just play You Got Another Thing Coming, man. We can play Victim of Changes whenever we feel like it. So there are no holds barred in this pure Badlands rock format that I've been able to be a part of, and they just kind of cut me loose on the air 4.5 hours a day to do my thing. And I'm able to play songs from my career and my history or by artists that I have a history with. Or, for instance, if I play a Dio song, I can talk about my history with Ronnie, how I met him, how we did the Sacred Heart Tour in Europe in '86. And if I play a Queensryche song, for instance, we had Queensryche in concert at Badlands just a couple of nights ago, I can tell a story about my relationship with those guys and play a deep cut that's one of my favorites. So the format is absolutely killer. We call it pure Badlands rock, and I've been able to develop my chops to where I've got a highly rated show. I've got a ton of listeners and building new fans every day. And really, my radio career is more than I ever dreamed it could be, and I owe that in large part to guys like you that supported me back when I was just getting started in radio.
What a compliment, Ron. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. I mean, it's true. I'm not blowing smoke. It's true. The Classic Metal Show is pops my cherry with online radio, and you guys have always had me on to support this thing. And, the single just came out a few days ago. This Badlands House Band Ghost Riders track is brand new. And, of course, there's an email from Chris Aiken saying, hey, you want to come on the show and talk about it? What a wonderful compliment to be able to come on your show and talk about what I'm doing now, because I do want the metal fans to embrace what I'm doing. I want them to know that I've never forgotten my roots. I know the country thing has always been a blessing and a curse in so many ways, because the Keel fans and the metalheads never really understood what the hell is Ron Keel doing. And, man, all I'm trying to do is create music and entertain people and enjoy my life, and it's all positive. And that metal heart is never going to stop beating. However, I just have a different side of my personality that I like to show in my music. I think evolution is inevitable. If you don't evolve, you'll die. And I've been able to create this metal cowboy persona, which is really, I mean, dude, I'll walk down the street and guys will go, hey, metal, like it's my first day. And they'll call up on the radio. I'm taking phone calls when I'm on the air, and they go, hello, Mr. Cowboy, would you please play some Accept? So this metal cowboy persona has really become who I am. And that started with Brian J., the lead guitar player from Keel. He was the one who coined the term metal cowboy. Keel was on our first ever headline tour of Europe in, I think it was 2012, and Brian J. and I are sitting on the tour bus in, I think it was Germany somewhere, and we're sitting across the table from each other, and he just looks at me and says, Ron, you should be the metal cowboy, man. It's who you are. And, those guys are my best friends. We've been in a band together for over 30 years now, and it means a lot that I can, Brian coined the term, and that little light bulb went off over my head at that point, and I said, yeah, I can kind of combine these two sides of my personality and hopefully create something that the fans will dig, and people love it. They love what we're doing. This band can get out on tour in front of 5,000 people or more, and we are doing some big shows. We've been to 7 states so far, from Florida to Texas to Minnesota to North Dakota, Ohio, and so we have been out there between the lines on the road, and it works every time. I've got 5,000 people with their fists in the air singing along, and that is the arena rock mentality that is always going to drive what I do.
Sure. Well, Ron, I want to talk about the band a little bit, just because, you know, the way this came together is so different from what I know of that you've done in the past. I mean, you've been obviously in several different projects in the past, or several different bands, but they all seem to come together a little more organically, where you just were, you know, you might have had an idea or something, and then you built around it. This was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you literally had to put together a band to fit what you guys were building as a business, and it just sort of, you know, I'm assuming that had to be very different to put together players for a project versus putting together, you know, a band where you're just all buddies hanging out and you play music. What was it indeed different, or am I just, you know, reading completely wrong into that?
Well, the only difference, Chris, is that we had the support of this massive multi-million-dollar infrastructure. It was basically like getting a record deal and then saying, okay, Ron, here's your deal, put the band together. And the only real stipulation was that the band had to convey the attitude and the spirit of Badlands, which is, like I said, it's all about guns, gold, and rock and roll. Tattoos and loud guitars and, you know, just that all-American work ethic and all those elements that have always been a part of me anyway. So the boss, our creator, Mr. Chuck Brennan, who created Badlands, assigned me the task of being the band leader, and it was up to me to find the players. I went first to Gino Arce, now known as El Diablo, and Gino's been with me, as you know, for 18 years. He was the bass player in Iron Horse. He's been the bass player in Keel for the last 8 years, and I had to go to him first. He got the first call. Dude, this is what I'm doing. I want you to be a part of it. Luckily, he was able to accept the offer and join me one more time with this project. Steve Purcell, also now known as Doc, is a longtime bandmate of mine. He and I have been working together for 10 years or more, and when I first moved to Vegas, I would fly Steve out to Vegas to do my gigs from Nashville. He's a Nashville guy. He's a picker. He's a metalhead, but he's a real one of those southern. He's a hillbilly. I mean, okay. He's a picker, and he would come out to Vegas to do my gigs because I couldn't find anybody in Vegas that could play both country and metal. So Steve and I have been playing in bands together and recording together and performing together for 10 years or more. D.C. Cawthorn on lead guitar, the good-looking blonde guy, he did my solo tour in 2014 when I released the Metal Cowboy. Whenever I was able to do a full band show, especially in the Columbus, Ohio area, that's when I first started working with D.C. And I walked in to the first rehearsal, and he was nailing the Keel and the Iron Horse and the Metal Cowboy and the Saber Tiger and all the stuff from throughout my career, stuff that he'd never played it before. And he walked into rehearsal, and it was just absolutely golden, and no pun intended because he's a good-looking blonde dude. But, I mean, his intelligence, his character, his work ethic, his playing, his charisma on stage, we really bonded during those tour dates when DC was doing the Metal Cowboy shows. So, yes, I was able to handpick my dream team of guys to join me in this, and there was only one song that was mandated. Chuck Brennan, our boss, never said you have to play this or you can't play that or you can't do this or you can't look like that. They left it up to me and our manager, Mike Chainsaw Kane Finley. You might be familiar with Chainsaw as the frontman for Slave Raider, a band that has a huge cult following here in the Midwest. And Chainsaw is now our manager, and he's the president of the entertainment manager of the Badlands Entertainment Group. He's my manager, my booking agent, and a very big creative force with this Badlands House Band. So he and I kind of got together, and we decided what songs we wanted to do, and the image, what we wanted the band to look like this post-apocalyptic cowboy thing that we're doing. So we did that on our own without any mandate from upstairs or from the owners or the management or the bosses. We created the band, and then it was time to play for them, show them what we did. Chuck said, "Hey, I want to see the band on Tuesday." And I said, "Okay." And he came into the Brennan Rock and Roll Academy here, where we were rehearsing at the time, saw the band, we blew them away, and the rest is history. And we've done, they did leave me the latitude to create what I wanted to do. And let's face it, the fact that I'm the metal cowboy is part of the reason I got the job in the first place. So I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I just wanted to keep that direction alive and keep it going, because that's what they wanted anyway. They wanted the metal cowboy, and that means arena rock and screaming guitars and powerful drums and screaming vocals with real American rock and roll songs and a musical direction, plus a big show. I mean, this thing is extremely theatrical, way more theatrical than I've ever had the chance to be, simply because we have the budget to do that. I'm shooting flames from my fingertips, man. We got confetti cannons, and I got this gun that shoots cryojets, and the pyro and all that stuff, which is, you can only do that if you can afford to do that, and it's right. Expensive, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you brought that up, Ron, because Chris and I were actually having a discussion before you came on tonight about doing these things the right way and having the deep pockets to do it, and not trying to pull something like this off on a shoestring budget, or you only have enough, money in the bank for one shot at it, and if you don't make it, it's over, So, apparently they're doing things right with you.
Yeah, we were able to skip a lot of rungs on the ladder thanks to a number of factors. First of all, the deep pockets, the investment that Badlands Entertainment Group has made in the new project. Our first gig, we were on our way to the gig in a beautiful tour bus wrapped with our picture on it, and a great crew, first state-of-the-art gear, some of which is sponsored from our endorsement companies now that we're working with PV Electronics for all of our amps and backlines, and there's a lot of gear that is endorsed. But the crew and the bus and the recording, just to create a competitive world-class recording like Ghost Riders, with Henry Paul producing, and to sonically compete with the best music out there, it does take money. We did not do this record in our basement. We did this in a very professional studio with a great team behind us. It was produced by Henry Paul. It was mixed by Bobby Huff, who is one of the Nashville A-team. It was mastered by a Grammy winner. I mean, the guy who mastered this thing he's got a Grammy on the wall, Hank Williams in Nashville. So, yeah, the opportunity to do things on a grand scale and to do it right, for me, it really is very much like reliving the dream that I lived in the 80s with Keel. Sure. Having major label support, having management, agents, an entire huge team around you that enables you to do that, and I am very thankful, man. Don't think that I'm not just blowing my horn or saying, hey, look how cool I am now. I feel very blessed and very lucky to, at this stage of the game, to have this. You guys know what I've been through. You know personally that I was touring the country in a $700 van with a bunch of guys in Iron Horse trying to scratch out a living and trying to get a break. And, I am living proof that if you keep swinging, at some point you're going to hit the ball. I mean, I believe that life is much easier than baseball, because in baseball you get 3 strikes. I'm the guy who just kept swinging at the ball. I never stopped creating. I never stopped performing. In 2014, with the Metal Cowboy release, I did 70,000 miles on tour. I was literally going from Florida to Portland to New York to Vegas to literally crisscrossing the country to do every show I possibly could to promote my book, Even Keel, Life on the Streets of Rock and Roll, the autobiography, in conjunction with that Metal Cowboy solo album. I stayed on the radar. I stayed viable. I was delivering a good product, and I just didn't give up. And that there's a lot to be said for that. So, man, just my advice to anybody in the business, because I'm 55 years old. At this stage of the game, I should be either retired or washed up, and I'm neither, man. I'm active. I am in between the lines. I am delivering the goods on stage and off on a daily basis with a real viable project that is it's like having so many of these dreams come true again for me. And I'm very thankful for that.
Sure. Now, Ron, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the group, just a piece of news that I heard. Did I hear right that your old friend Paul Stanley is now a partner or something with Badlands Pawn, or
yes,
what?
Paul Stanley saw what we were doing here, and Paul knows Chuck. Chuck Brennan, our creator, is good friends with the guys in Kiss and a lot of other high-level rockers. There's some great stories that I could tell about my early experiences with Chuck, and when I would walk into a party that Chuck was hosting, and he'd sit me at a table with, Gene and Paul and Alice Cooper and Doc McGee, and he is very well liked and very well respected in the rock and roll circles. And Chuck, our creator, is at the core of it. He's a rock and roll fan, man. He loves good, hard rock and roll, and he's a fan. So it's not necessarily entirely a business move for him. It is definitely a labor of love. So when Paul Stanley saw what Chuck was doing with Badlands Pawn here in South Dakota, he got excited, as everybody does, and bought in as a stockholder. And now he's got an interest in this thing. And of course, that led to Kiss coming to perform at our venue a few weeks back. We had Kiss sold out at Badlands Pawn, and they did their amazing acoustic unplugged and unmasked show for us. So that has been our first gig, the new band, Badlands House Band, our first show ever. I mean, it's our first gig ever, and Paul Stanley's going to come out and do 4 Kiss songs with us. Talk about pressure. And Jack Blades from Night Ranger. Jack's a big part of this thing, too. Jack is going to be hosting our game show, which is going to be on Fox TV, and he's also been very active especially performing with the house band twice now at our debut show, and then again at the Badlands House Band Invitational, which was a concert we did 3 weeks ago. Chris, you work with Don Dokken, so you might know about this. We had Mark Slaughter from Slaughter, Don Dokken, Stephen Piercy, Kip Winger, and Jack Blades, and we worked up all of their greatest hits, and we were the backing band. The house band came out and did a little 10-minute opening segment, and then brought these guys out on stage to back them up on their greatest hits, and just ask any of them how cool Badlands is, and how every band leaves here with this amazing impression of this one-of-a-kind rock and roll Disneyland that we've created. And you can ask the guys in Accept, or Queensryche, or Kiss, or Dokken, or any of those guys that participated in the Badlands House Band Invitational, just how cool is this, and they'll tell you it's the coolest place on the planet.
Sure. Well, I'll be seeing Don next Saturday, as a matter of fact, Ron, and I'll ask him about that. See what.
Please do. Yeah, please do, because Don had a great time, man. It was so good to see him, and Don and I go back 34 years, I think, 34 years since we first met, and we've done a lot of stuff together over the years, and played shows and hung out and just been friends, and to see him get that fire, I mean, Don he sang his ass off. He was smiling. He was having a good time. And I'd like to think that some of that was because the band was on fire. The place is absolutely killer, and we treated him well. And that meant a lot to us that we could send those guys home with a great memory.
Excellent. Well, Ron, it sounds like you got a lot of good things going on up there at the Badlands Pawn. Chris and I have made it our goal to come out there and visit with you and sit in on one of your radio shows. We're invited.
You got to do that, man. We've got Megadeth in concert May 26th. That would be a prime time for you guys to come visit and hang out and see a great show.
Sure, absolutely. Good stuff.
You're always welcome. The door's always open, man. You guys rock. And I encourage the metalheads out there, whatever you may think of Ron Keel, or no, he went country, or he's not this, or he is that, or whatever they might think of me. Give me 5 minutes, man. Give me 5 minutes to entertain you. Go to badlandshouseband.com and watch the new music video for Ghost Riders. If you don't get entertained by that, then I rest my case. So, but just give me 5 minutes, and I'll show you that we are alive and well here at Badlands in the Midwest, and we are kicking some ass.
Sure. Well, how do you like living out there, Ron? How do you like living in the Dakotas?
Well, I love it, actually. I feel more at home than I have really anywhere else, and it's not a cliche. It's not just lip service. I love all my former hometowns, Phoenix, Arizona, where I grew up and had my formative years, in Nashville, Tennessee, of course, where I spent a lot of time, Columbus, Ohio, and, of course, the Hollywood years are never going to die. And that 11 years I spent as part of the L.A. metal scene in Hollywood is a very special time in my life. But Sioux Falls here in the Midwest has been, it feels good. It feels like home. The winter didn't bother me at all. The sub-zero temperatures and all that. It's beautiful. And now, I'm looking at 8 months ahead of absolutely beautiful weather, which you don't get in Vegas, man. Vegas is great, but man, it gets really hot and you're baking. It's like 8 months out of the year. The people are great. This is the crossroads of America. This is a middle-class, blue-collar, hard-working, hard-rocking, hard-partying part of the country, and I feel right at home.
Excellent. Well, we're happy for your success, Ron, and, we appreciate, knowing you and being a friend and, having you on the show. You're welcome on anytime, as always. And I think unless you have something else to impart to the fans, I think we should give them some of the Badlands House Band and play your tune, Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Now, I certainly want to thank everybody for coming along for the ride. Thank you guys for having me on the air, and especially thank you for playing this cut, our new single, Ghost Riders in the Sky.
All right, well, here it is. This is Ron Keel and the Badlands House Band, and it's Ghost Riders in the Sky exclusively here
on your classic metal show.